Hey guys! I know I have made promises for videos about different subjects, and believe me, they're in the works, but because of the recent hints that BioWare has been releasing, I thought I'd expedite the topic that seems like it may be of some relevance very soon. The Dwarves, Lyrium, and the biggest new mystery, the Titans. We haven't heard much about the Dwarves since Origins, so a lot of this video is going to be really tinfoily, and chances are I might miss something, so please feel free to add any info I miss in the comments. As usual, this will contain spoilers for all games and books. We know that the Dwarves are an ancient race in Thedas, if not just as ancient as the Elves, which means there's thousands of years of history to go along with them. For me, the Dwarves and their relationship to Lyrium remains one of the biggest mysteries in Thedas, but Inquisition introduced a huge new question.
You were very short. Mother didn't say you were a dwarf.
You caught me, and I was trying so hard to be taller.
But you can't be taller. Not without the Titans.
What the heck are the Titans? At first I was caught off guard. I couldn't remember hearing anything about the Titans before. But the further I researched into it, the more I found past hints that I believe could possibly be related. Now, to me, the word in itself, Titan, implies something massively large. This reminds me of a verse in the Chant of Light, found in the World of Thedas Volume 2. It comes from the Canticle of Exaltations, Chapter 1, on page 74. It is a prophecy of what will happen when the Maker returns. It says, 70 times 70 men of stone immense rose up from the earth like sleepers waking at the dawn, crossing the land with strides immeasurable, and in the hollows of their footprints paradise was stamped indelible. We already know the dwarves are the ones who created and implemented the golems, massive beings made of stone or steel. Caridin, the golem who we meet in the Anvil of the Void in Dragon Age Origins, created them. The process, which involves basically sacrificing a dwarf's soul and magically binding it into stone or metal with a spark of lyrium. One of my favorite companions, Shale, is another example of such golems. Now these guys are pretty huge, but not necessarily what I would consider titanic. It is possible, however, that they come in various sizes. Take, for example, the codex about the inspiration for the Gate Guardian statues found in the Western Approach. It says, "And as I walked in the desert, I saw a great armored figure whose form blotted out the sky. At first I took it to be no more than met the eye, a simple spiked statue, but as I approached, this deceptive icon transformed into a warrior as graceful as it was massive, its bladed staff leveled at me with energy crackling from its tip. Though my position was hardly optimal, primal magic burned a few feet from my face, I kept my wits and asked the mighty golem to show me mercy. The armored figure spoke with a voice to make the sky quake and the stars scream. It sought magic to keep itself alive, it said, and the blood of the earth was the energy on which it survived." And that energy is implied to have been Lyrium. Lyrium, what I consider the second biggest mystery about the dwarves, that strange connection they have to something so magical, yet they themselves are unable to create magic.
I've noticed that for a people with no mages, dwarves use an awful lot of magic.
Dwarves are known to be so connected to Lyrium that they alone are able to mine it safely. They say that Lyrium sings to them and are able to find veins of Lyrium by ear. This strange song is very reminiscent of the calling of the Blight and the archdemons, as well as Red Lyrium. Flemeth also mentions music.
Alas, so long as the music plays, we dance.
But what is Lyrium? What is this song? There has to be more to it than just some mineral.
Lyrium is alive, or something like it. Blight doesn't infect minerals, only animals.
It even has the ability to kill people or make them go a little off.
I had a little incident a few years back. Too much time with the raw lyrium ore, you know. Maybe it was a bad vein. I cut myself and the dust got straight in the blood. Since then, it's been a little hard for me to concentrate. Except when forging, then I'm straight as an arrow. Best work I've ever seen.
Even Solus seems to be pretty surprised that the dwarves haven't studied Lyrium more in depth.
And the dwarves of Orzammar have never studied Lyrium?
Well, if they have, they certainly haven't shared anything up here. Why?
It is the source of all magic, save that which mages bring themselves. Dwarves alone have the ability to mine it safely. I wondered if they had sought to learn more.
The folks back in Orzammar don't care much about anything but tradition.
To me, that implies that Solus knows more about the dwarves' connection with Lyrium, and that it's something he expects the dwarves to know more about. Lyrium is confusing to me in that it can help supply mana for mages, but it can also suppress magic, as seen in the dwarves and the Templars. Cole brings us to our attention in Inquisition about Templars.
They feel older than they look. They've been changed, and their bodies are incomplete now. The Lyrium helps, but their bodies always want to connect to something older, bigger than they are. That's why they block magic. They reach for that other thing, and magic has no room to come in. Like when I listen to Varric.
In a couple banters with Varric, he also asks him,
Do you write to reach across? To hear the song that was sundered?
I'm not sure what that even means, kid, but probably.
I like traveling with dwarves.
Glad to hear it, kid.
You're quiet, but the old song still echoes inside, almost like Templars.
If Lyrium is what sings to the dwarves, does Cole's questions to Varric suggest that there was a time in which dwarves were connected to a sort of magic? Is Lyrium what made the dwarves part of that something older and bigger that Cole mentions? Is that something bigger possibly the Titans, or perhaps the stone? Or are they one and the same? Dagna has a very interesting vision about Lyrium, the stone, and being taller.
Answers, Dagna.
Lyrium and the Fade linked, but dwarves and Tranquil not linked. But they work Lyrium, so they are, somehow. There's something there. I was face deep in a rune, and for a moment, I was tall. Really tall. And I thought all the thoughts.
You felt taller? How much taller?
Like mountain tall. Or I was the mountain. But I was moving. I felt dizzy. You know what I remembered? Watching a shaper it carve the wall of memory, except big. Isn't that weird? Maybe there were fumes.
What do you mean when you say thought all the thoughts?
I don't know. As if for a moment I was around all my people, and my thought was all of theirs.
Your thoughts were their thoughts?
No, my thought was all of our thoughts, like parts. Words are mush. Maybe that's what the stone feels like. Or we think it feels like. If we think it feels. Creepy.
So Tranquil and dwarves are linked to Lyrium, but also not linked?
Like the Lyrium needs to flow, but if you're part of it, it takes you with it. So you can't be part of it. That makes me sad. I'm not sure why. It seems like we should be part of it. Whatever it is. Or maybe we're the ones who make it happen. Whatever it is. You know what's frustrating? Answers that aren't answers. Blah.
Exactly what I've been thinking, Dagna. Exactly. Dagna is mentioning that same strange connection between the dwarves and Lyrium, as well as feeling mountain tall. Could she be referring to the Titans also? The Nexus Golem, found in an abandoned Tig in Dragon Age 2, says,
We were once more than we are.
Is he also referring to that same feeling that Dagna got? Solus also seems to imply a similar sentiment in a banter with Varric.
Dwarves are the severed arm of a once mighty hero, lying in a pool of blood, undirected. Whatever skill at arms it had, gone forever. Although it might twitch to give the appearance of life, it will never dream.
We're not Orzammar, and we're not our empire. There are tens of thousands of us living up here in the sunlight now, and it's not that bad. Life goes on. It's just different than it used to be.
And you have no concept of what that difference cost you.
Solus sounds kind of sad or disappointed, as if this once mighty hero used to be able to dream, or walk the Fade, a skill that he greatly values. Did something happen that caused the Titans to lose their connection to the Fade, and thus magic? Dagna implies in her vision that her thought was all the thoughts of the dwarves. To me, this hints that the dwarves share, or more likely once shared, a kind of collective consciousness at some point. It is interesting to consider that this song that dwarves can hear from Lyrium seems to have similar properties to the taint as well as red lyrium, which are both forms of corruption that seem to render the infected with a singular goal, or a hive mind of sorts. Garen mentions that lyrium can get into the mind.
Well, it's the lyrium, you know, raw blood of the earth. It's more alive than you and me. Most of the time, that's no problem. When it's all bundled up in a piece of steel, it'll leave you alone. But handling the ore directly, sometimes you get burned. It's not just your skin it takes off. It'll burn directly into your mind.
And Solus seems impressed that Varric would rather not hear its song.
I like who I am. If I want to hear songs, I'll go to the tavern.
You are wiser than most.
Does this mean that lyrium was what was used to control this collective consciousness? We do know that Templars are given lyrium in a sort of means to control them.
I will not be bound to the Order, or that life any longer. Whatever the suffering, I accept it.
Could that be what the stone sense really is? The influence of the stone that all dwarves were once a part of? This could also be where the dwarven emphasis on tradition stems from, as well as the practice of shaping their collective memories by recording it in lyrium. Solus asks Varric in a banter if he misses the call of the stone.
Do you ever miss life beneath the earth? The call of the stone?
Nah, whatever the stone, capital S, is, it was gone by the time my parents had me.
But do you miss it?
He seems to imply that he expects that Varric should miss it, that he expects Varric to be a part of it despite his surface upbringing. Is this the way Solus remembers the ancient dwarves? Basically just individual parts of a larger whole, like the Titans or the stone? The Gate Guardians Codex, mentioned earlier, discusses these golems survived on the blood of the earth, or lyrium. We have also heard mention of blood from the Nexus Golem.
Amgarak tapped the blood, spilled within the stone.
Amgarak was a Taig that is represented in the Golems of Amgarak DLC from Origins, where they performed experiments on golems. In that DLC, we use lyrium to basically travel through different dimensions. This blood of the earth, which I suspect could perhaps mean the blood of the Titans, is it somehow remnant of the collective consciousness to which the dwarves once belonged? Imagining the dwarves as some part of Titans reminds me of a codex found in the Temple of Mythal, only translated if the Inquisitor drinks from the well. It is called Old Elven Writing, and it says, "In this place we prepare to hunt the pillars of the earth. Their workers scurry, witless, soulless. This death will be a mercy. We will make the earth blossom with their passing." At first I thought perhaps this codex was somehow referencing the Darkspawn, but after thinking more about the Titans, I'm wondering if they are these pillars of the earth. That sure sounds titanic. Are their witless, soulless workers the dwarves, who have since gained their wits and souls in their absence? I'm not really sure what I think. But why would the elves of ancient times have been preparing to hunt them? Here's where we get even more tinfoily, and something I'm not even sure that I believe in, but I thought I'd bring up some interesting connections I've found and see what you guys think. If we consider who the enemies of the ancient elves were, the two groups that come to mind are Tevinter and the Forgotten Ones. We know from the Elven God Andril Codex and from Merrill that the Forgotten Ones stay in the Void or the Abyss, a place that has been implied to be deep within the earth, like the dwarves. This has an interesting connection to the Anvil of the Void that Caridin invented to create golems. So what is the relationship between dwarves or the Titans and the Forgotten Ones, if any? While exploring the primeval Taig, we come across profanes, or rock wraiths, which are said to be the souls of corrupt dwarves unfit to return to the stone in their deaths. The codex about them says, "We who are forgotten remember. We clawed at rock until our fingers bled. We cried out for justice but were unheard. Our children wept in hunger, and so we feasted upon the gods. Here we wait in eons of silence, we few, we profane." Now this is extremely interesting to me, especially because of the word choice, forgotten. I'm also very interested in the fact that these souls appear to have been trapped behind rock, and that they feasted upon the gods, whatever that means.
The profane have lingered in this place for ages, beyond memory, feeding on the magic stones until the need is all they know.
They eat the lyrium. Sounds like a healthy diet.
If rock wraiths eat lyrium, which has also been called the blood of the earth, does that mean the earth was considered godly? The Titans? While I have no real answers for what this means exactly, this codex reminds me an awfully lot of a note found written in red lyrium in the Fade during the Here Lies the Abyss quest in Inquisition. It says, "We are here, we have waited, we have slept, we are sundered, we are crippled, we are polluted. We endure, we wait, we have found the dreams again, we will awaken." I had never considered this note to have anything remotely to do with the dwarves, particularly because it is found in the Fade, where most dwarves cannot venture. However, because it reminds me so closely of the Profane Codex, and we know that dwarves do have a history of recording their memories in lyrium, I have begun to question it. Do any of these notes have anything to do with the Forgotten Ones? In the Legacy DLC, we see another connection between dwarves and a possible Forgotten One. There's a hidden boss that we learn about called Malvernus. One of the codices says, "We called it Malvernus, the pestilent one. It devoured Tigers, turning our fairest work into a noxious waste. It consumed living warriors, turning their bodies to slime, and when its hunger was not abated, it consumed the bones of our ancestors. Foulness came from its touch, poison and filth and desecration. It threatened the stone itself. The Shapers bound it, chained in lyrium stained with the blood of 100 warriors. But within the orb it hungered, it waited." I say that Malvernus was a possible Forgotten One because he is known as the Pestilent One. The Codex on Fen'Harel mentions that the Forgotten Ones are the gods of terror and malice, spite, and pestilence. So was this guy, Malvernus, who we can fight in Legacy DLC from Dragon Age 2, one of the Forgotten Ones? If so, what was he doing with the dwarves? The Forgotten Ones are an elven legend. The Codex says he was threatening Tigers and even the stone itself, and was eventually bound in lyrium, in an orb, and trapped. An orb similar to the focus Corypheus somehow obtained from Fen'Harel? Again, I am not sure what to make of this connection, if anything, but I do find it really interesting. We do know, after all, from a quest to create a chantry in Orzammar in Origins, that the stone has been practiced for 2,000 years. This dates back to about the time of the fall of Arlathan. So is there any correlation? No matter if the dwarves are somehow related to the Forgotten Ones or not, what is clear is that the dwarves have a definite mysterious history with the Titans and a strange connection to lyrium, the blood of the earth. Hopefully all of these DLC hints BioWare has been putting out means some of these questions will be answered soon. With all of this information, I'm really curious to hear your theories about the dwarves. Please let me know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for updates. Thanks so much for watching. Bye!